Welcome to today's podcast. Bit of a special episode today. Bit of a throwback Wednesday. I recorded this a little while ago with Melissa and Jerry Ghionis. Jerry is one of the photographers that I looked up to in the very beginning. He was somebody that had a big influence on my style. I was a comfortable enough photographer. I was comfortable enough in technical. It was just actually communicating with people and getting people to do the things that I had in my head, which was a big challenge for me because I'm a very introverted person. So that was a big step for me to get over. Jerry's videos helped me a lot with that. He is now doing Jerry Ghionis photography training, which is at Ghionis, which is GHIONIS.com. If you're interested in checking out what he has to offer. But on to today's episode.
Thank you so much for having me over in your house. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's cool to see all your pool toys in real life. It's very exciting. I've been a fan for quite some time. I think I was one of the first people kind of into the Ice Society way back in 2008.
Yeah,
ages ago.
Almost 10 years old now.
Yeah, well, congratulations on continued success. I guess let's kind of get into it. How did you guys end up to this point here in Las Vegas, in your lives, in your photography careers? I know, loaded question.
It all started in the balls of my father a very long time ago, 44 years and 9 months ago.
Okay.
But it's true. No. Well, where do we begin? In terms of us as a couple moving from LA, or just a general?
Yeah. Even how did you find photography? What is the backstory there?
I was given my first camera at the age of 15. My brother was into photography before I was, and my uncle was as well. Had a darkroom, all the rest of it. And he gave me a camera, and I was just obsessed. I was like that guy who had the camera everywhere, and exhausted all my friends because I was sick of being photographed by me. I photographed the tennis. I photographed streetscapes, landscapes, you name it, and did it relentlessly as a hobby from 15 till about end of high school. I worked at a few camera shops just to get into the game. Then I started a 4-year course, and after a year I quit because they were teaching me stuff that I wouldn't really. I think what I call the algebra of photography, search deep inside your soul and save the world through the lens of your camera. It was just a bit too deep. Where all I wanted to know is how to make someone look pretty, how to light, how to pose, composition, storytelling, all those things, and it just wasn't really for me. So I quit. And then I assisted a photographer for about 1.5 years, 2 years, with no pay, just carrying bags, observing. And then he asked me to work for him full time, which I did. And that was for about 3.5 years. And then I started my own business in '97, and then reinvented it's a bit of a long story, but our family lost our house to a recession back then, and it was a tough time. The water got cut off from my house, the electricity got cut off. Then the banks took over the house and changed the locks, and it was a very tough time. And so basically my brothers at the time, they opened up a charcoal chicken shop in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have much money back then at all, but they had sort of leased quite a big property on the corner of this street. So they had this really huge storeroom, and I said, can I build a wall in that storeroom, and then I can have a little piece of it? And I paid $100 a week for rent back then. So in the size of a basic bedroom, I built a very large studio. It was from 25 weddings in my first year in '97, then 50 weddings the next year, then 100 weddings the year after. I doubled my prices, then 100 weddings a year after again. And then I convinced my brother's landlords, so my landlords, took me a year to convince them to build a second level above the building. So I said, wouldn't it be cool to create a studio above the building to be close to my brothers and my family? Took a year to convince them, a year to actually build it, and we reinvented a studio in 2001, and built it to a 300 wedding a year studio, and did that for about 10 years. Sold the business in 2007. Started a boutique studio in Melbourne's Docklands in 2007. Eventually fell in love with a beautiful American, and then we started living in LA for about 6-7 years ago, and then we recently relocated to Vegas. That's the quick long story.
Life in under 5 minutes. How have you seen specifically the wedding photography landscape change, even in kind of those 10 or 15 years? Has it been 10 or 15 years? What's the math on that?
20 years, actually.
I've been shooting professionally for 24 years, so I just turned 44. I shot my first wedding at the age of 20. There's some huge changes, obviously. I shot my first part of my career on medium format. So most of my weddings were shot on a Mamiya RB67. I mean, it's huge, and I loved it. I've got to say, to this day, I have a lot of affection for looking down the camera, the bellows, and twisting focus and rotating the back 6x7, and it was a magical time because there was mystery behind what we did as photographers. Even we didn't know what would come out.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait for the images to come out. I mean, obviously you expose well and you compose well and all that kind of thing, but there was a magic behind waiting for the photographs and coming in. But those are the days where you had to number the negatives, you had to chop them up, you had to mask them, create your own albums, build your own albums, put screws in them and all that kind of stuff. So there was a transition from medium format to 35mm as well, and then there was, you could scan your negatives and then you could output digitally and so on and so on and so on. So the transitions have been many, and certainly I think that the biggest problem in our industry at the moment is that the mystery has gone. Mm-hmm. That now we could take a photo of us right now, post it on Instagram and get a few hundred likes within minutes. So the images are very disposable. You know, we can swipe them and dispose of them like that. So I think that the problem is that there's too many of us, I guess everyone's a photographer, and that's okay, but I really believe there'll be a renaissance soon of photography, that people will appreciate craftsmen and people who know their craft and who can tell a story beautifully and who can light beautifully and pose beautifully and all those things. But there's obviously more to that. I mean, what do you think? Maybe
I agree with that too. I think that because it's become so easily accessible photography, that there will come a point where it all starts looking the same because everyone's sort of doing the same thing and just doing casual shots, posting everything on Instagram. And I think there will come a time, probably soon, where people are looking for something that is more well-crafted, that requires more than what you can just take with your iPhone or what you can just take as a snapshot. They're going to want something a bit more, with more substance to it. Yeah. So,
and there is a market for it, no doubt. I mean, right at this moment, there's plenty of photographers doing incredibly well in small towns, big towns, whether it's wedding photography, portrait, newborn, whatever it is. There's plenty of people making an incredible run of it. I think the biggest problem is that most of us don't market ourselves to our potential target market. We have a website, we have a Facebook page. I've got a good Google guy, SEO guy, and that's about it. And you wait for the work to come in. And of course, waiting for that kind of work to come in, it'll normally be judged on being the cheapest.
Yeah.
Those who are targeting their market, they know who they want, they know exactly who their kind of market is, and they lift up from their seat behind a computer and actually go and meet people and network with people. They're the ones that are thriving today, let alone, of course, will have a longevity in the future.
And I don't think that has ever changed. I don't think that will ever change. There's always going to be people who love photography, start shooting, start photographing other people, photographing weddings and stuff, and there'll always be people that come in and out of the industry that are like that. And as always, the ones that will be able to keep doing this is those that learn about business, because most of us, when we became photographers, we didn't know about business, and you have to learn all of that. And that's usually, for creatives, not the fun part of it. Everyone hates that part of it. And so that's why it may not be a long-term career for so many people, because if you don't learn it, unfortunately, you're not charging what you're worth, you're not charging enough money to support yourself or support your family, and so it can't be sustained. So that is probably one of the most important things that you learn, even, I would say, arguably, learning about posing and lighting. Like, you can learn that, but one of the most important things is learning about the business side of it, otherwise it'll only be a short-term hobby, you know?
I know, as far as at least people that I've interviewed on the podcast so far, I would say that half of them come from a business background, half of them come from a photography background. Yeah. So are you guys both shooters primarily and business came second, or? So
for me personally, I've been shooting for 17 years now. And I started off, I had a partner before who loved the photography side of things. I loved the business side of things. So I learned photography to have this business. And to this day, I still prefer the business side of things. So when Jerry and I got together, we still shoot together. I will still second shoot for Jerry, but my love is always doing the business side of things, and I will always love doing that. Jerry's probably a really rare creature in that he equally loves the business side of things as well as the creative side of things. It's a good partnership that we have now, because now he can focus on the creative side of things, and he's the one who comes up with new ideas and new projects and new shoots and all of that stuff. Like, Jerry's the ideas guy, and he's got so many great ideas, and then I can implement them. I'm not an ideas person. He can give me an idea and I can take it and I can run with it, but I'm not the one who comes up with it. I'm not the creative person. So it actually works out well. Jerry is so strange in that he's equally good at both things, but it's nice to have his time freed up now where he doesn't have to worry about the business side of things and can just be as creative as he wants to be.
I think it's exactly right. I think that when I teach photographers about business, I try to teach them in a way that they'll respond to. In other words, you're a creative, you're a sensitive artist, you're a creative. So I say to them, well, how do you find the creativity in business? Because I honestly believe that you can be more creative in business than you can be in photography. Yeah. In photography, you can create beautiful shots and it's creative and it's a wow, but it's sort of disposable. You take the shot and it's done, what next? With business, one idea can make you a billionaire. I mean, think about it. So as far as I'm concerned, like, how can you be creative? What's the hustle? What skills do you have? What connections do you have? Where are you in the marketplace? How do you get creative with those ideas? So now, the last several years, Melissa manages our 5-6 companies. I drive it, she's the engine, and we certainly have Chris Saraiva, who's actually also works with us, is incredible. We manage so many things, but it's also because she frees me up to come up with the ideas. I task a bit of it myself, but then we sort of pass it off. So there's this perfect synergy between what she's good at, what I'm good at. Well, we both could be good at everything, but it's purely like we know what we should be doing with this particular task. And it's unspoken and it's effortless. It's fantastic.
That's really cool. As far as, I guess kind of changing tracks a little bit, but not really. As far as pivotal moments of your career go, are most of them things that you did actively, or are they just random things that just happened organically? Mm-hmm. Like, as far as setting up shoots that have become like those iconic photos, were they actively created or were they just organic?
I think, especially probably the first half of my career, a lot of them were organic. To be honest, in the first part of my career, my philosophy, which you probably know, is among many, is you don't have to be the best. All you have to do is be better than last week. So for me, it was about being just better than my last week's effort. And I would never walk away from a wedding or a shoot unless I come up with one wow shot, one iconic shot. At least in my eyes, or at least the best I could do at that time with that couple, with that dress, with that weather and all that kind of thing. So the first part of my career, I never chased popularity. I never chased notoriety or anything like that. I chased just being true to my clients, because I love what I do. I love pleasing my clients and bringing out the best in them. So it was very much just a mission to do that, to please the client. Then as teaching came on board and everything like that, when my former assistant, Sally Ann Sargood, who actually works at Animoto now, she sort of said, oh, look, not everyone sees the world like you do. You should really start documenting like behind the scenes, like this empty, crappy room and what you do with it. Because no one, especially in 2000 when I started doing this, no one was really teaching that way. Yeah. Not many people had the foresight to sort of say, hey, here's the environment on a real job. Now let's document it and actually show you in real time what I did to overcome the problems and things like that. So it was very much an organic thing. I did want to be a very large studio. I don't know why. Maybe it was just being young and wanting to be a large studio because I could, or because, I don't really know, just being a bit young and dumb and all that kind of stuff.
It's also how you gauge your success too, is what I've found.
Yeah, and then you just sort of, so I was chasing to be this big studio, the biggest studio in Australia, and we probably achieved it, I'd say. But in the end, for me, where I'm happiest is when I create. That's what it comes down to. When I create something, whether it's an idea, whether it's a business venture, whether it's a shoot. Certainly there's been things in my career that I've chased, and there's also been some pleasant surprises when you get an email in your inbox that says this or that or whatever.
So I have a little bit of a different take on it, because I see it from the outside, especially when we first started working together, and I've never seen anybody work as hard as Jerry does. So for him, it may feel that it's organic and it's the normal way of just how he operates, but what I actually see is he just never stops. He never stops working. He never, like, we stop working at home, but I'm saying his brain is always thinking. So when he's looking when we're on an airplane, he's looking through fashion magazines nonstop, and he's not reading any of the articles. He just flips through them, and what he's doing, he's looking at all the ads, he's looking at all the images, and he's just filling his mind up with these ideas and these concepts. He's when we're watching a movie, he'll like freeze it and screen capture something and just be like, that's just a great light, there's great lighting there, and all this stuff. It's always there in the back, and he doesn't mean to. He's not necessarily always consciously looking at that. We're out at the movies or we're sitting down to dinner and there's somebody sitting next to us that looks interesting. Jerry will start talking to them and strike up a conversation, and next thing we know, this person is like in charge of this fashion house that's like in the next town over, and oh my God, well, let's set up a meeting to chat together, and now we have this shoot set up to photograph all this amazing fashion. Like, that's not really organic. That is you striking up that conversation where probably most of us wouldn't have done that. And for you, that you're so used to that just coming so naturally to you, but for the people who don't have it come naturally to you, that's something to keep in mind. Like, he's always, wow, that's a really interesting looking person. You know, I'd love to maybe photograph you one day, and then that just opens up this whole, you know, other concept, and it's just always something that he's always in it. He's always thinking and always. It's amazing how it works, and it's just from working.
That's really cool. I will say that kind of on that note that one of the things that helped me a lot was just watching you pose, because I'm a very naturally introverted person, and I was so scared to just be like, oh, can you just like move your hand? I would rather just kind of like shoot around it in a way that looked the best, rather than actually like influencing and correcting whoever's modeling for me, or if I'm at a wedding. So watching behind the scenes like really had a significant impact. I think you've helped a lot of people.
Oh, thank you.
So I guess Las Vegas. How did you guys end up here?
Look, we were planning to, we've been living in LA for about 6-7 years, and we enjoyed it. It's a great place. So we've got lots of close friends there and all those kinds of things. It's a cool place to live. We were sort of on the border of Beverly Hills and West Hollywood. So, you know, the walks were really cool. You'd find a lot of cool people, but we didn't really have roots there, apart from the friends that we made. But we have friends all over the world. We're fortunate enough to go to a convention anywhere in the world and meet 30 people that we know very, very well. So we didn't have family roots, as in blood roots, or we didn't get intertwined with the culture and all the bridal houses and things like that. So we felt, you know what, I'd love to get something a little bit bigger, something that we can teach in, something that we can actually have a bit larger studio space. And so every single year we come here for WPPI, as you I'm sure you probably do as well. And we sort of became curious, because it's only 4 hours away from LA. It's a desirable city to travel to, because you've got the best and cheapest hotels in the world, the best restaurants in the world, the best shows in the world. And then in the suburbs outside the Strip, you can get a big mansion for what you pay for a small apartment in LA. And so we inquired about it about a year ago or so. We were thinking of buying. We sort of held off a little bit, and then only a couple of days after WPI this year in 2017, we had a look at a few places very deliberately, came back to LA on a Sunday. This listing came up, Melissa found it, and we saw it, we loved it, the place that we're literally doing the podcast in right now. And we drove here on the Monday morning, believe it or not. Loved it, put an application in, and we're here. And we love it. So we've got a separate building to the house that has a teaching room, a broadcasting room, and a 30 by 30 foot studio. So we want to start bringing more people to us and be able to have more of a nesting lifestyle, because the past 17 years of my life I've been traveling relentlessly. Fortunately enough, I haven't had a winter in 17 years, a full winter. So
congratulations!
Thank you.
That's like a life accomplishment.
That is an accomplishment.
Like, there's an award for that or something.
There should be. So I haven't had a winter for so long, and life is great. We're very fortunate. We're very, I want to say lucky. I mean, you make your own luck. I always believe that. But we're very fortunate that with our lifestyle, what we've been able to do and shoot and teach all over the world. But we wanted to create an environment where we can nest a little bit more. We can spend time here, and and with that comes a lot of reinvention. So we're reinventing the Eye Society now, which we're very excited about. That'll be renamed the Jerry Ghionis Photography Training, and that'll involve a lot more impromptu shoots. I'll do a fashion shoot and I'll just say to my members, hey guys, tune in, you can watch a full day fashion shoot right now. Ask some questions afterwards. Let's gather more information and say, what can I do for you? And being able to do a lot more shoots here as well. It's actually a very creative city as well. You've got some incredible masters of their craft here, and we did a huge shoot only a month or so ago, which forced us to actually get intertwined within the culture. And then we've actually been really pleasantly surprised on how supportive the creatives are in this city with performers and models. And so we've opened up ourselves to a whole new world. The fact that there's no state tax here is really cool. The weather is great. Certainly it's hot in the June, July, August, but no big deal. There's a pool outside and we've got air conditioning. Life is good, and we can when we can travel. It's only 10 minutes from the airport, so we're excited. We're excited.
It's definitely a lifestyle choice for sure. For us to come here, and like Jerry said, we're looking to settle down a bit more, and it'll be nice. I think it's the perfect place to do it.
Very cool.
We've got friends here as well, so it's really good.
And Melissa has a big, beautiful kitchen that she can cook.
And apparently you're pretty good at creating these.
Well, she introduced me to them. Now I didn't want to learn how to do it myself because then I'd have to do it.
But
that may be one of the first times you've done it.
Oh no, I've done it a few though.
It's been documented now.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We've got evidence.
Thank you.
So as far as WPPI goes, what's kind of your involvement in your role kind of within that community?
We just recently announced, WPPI announced that we are going to be, or we are the community directors for WPPI, which is sort of a liaison between all of us photographers and the WPPI team. So they created that, or they asked us to take on that role because they really wanted to make some changes. They were hearing about what people were saying, hey, we'd like to have this, we'd like to have that. So is there a way for us to kind of get the word out and just talk to all of us photographers that have been going to WPPI for 10, 20, 30 years? What are we looking for, and how they can change with every year? So we're loving being a part of that and just sort of talking to photographers all over the world and finding out what is helpful when you go to a convention. What is it that you want to learn about? What is it that you need? And for the last 4 years, Jerry and I have been the competition directors for the print competition. And so we are continuing doing that, and we're sort of taking on an expanded role now, taking on the online competitions as well, and we're really excited about that. That has been our biggest passion. It was our baby for such a long time. We spent so many hours with it, just refining the competition, changing some rules, and we absolutely love it. And so it's grown so much, and we're so excited about it. We have thousands of entries every single year, and just watching the work, it's just amazing, mind-blowing. You walk through the gallery at WPPI and it's so amazing to just see the incredible work from all over the world, Asia, Europe, the US, Canada, everywhere. It's just pretty awesome. So we're so honored to be a big part of that.
I think the number one thing of WPPI for me is just like kind of expanding my global network of photographers, and just the community involved has basically like transformed me from being just a photographer up in Canada that didn't really know anyone to now I have like friends in LA and like everywhere, like around the world, and it's, I don't know, it just like makes you so much more immersed in that lifestyle.
Like you travel so much, in every city you go to, you know somebody. And
it's like fraternity or something.
It is.
Really, really
for us, like we look at all our best friends, 95% of them we've met through WPPI. Gaining an audience with my photography and or teaching has also started with WPPI. It's almost like, we've grown up in this organization and we know how much it did for us, so we want it for other people as well. We could easily just not do both of these jobs and make a hell of a lot more money with the time that we actually have, that we do. But quite simply, I think it's a responsibility when people are in positions where they can help and actually lead and move forward and help the next generation, stand on your own shoulders. That for me and for Melissa and I, it's sort of been a part of our mission that we want people to grow up the way we grew up, because we have an affection for it. And certainly because we've had many roles, like I've been a speaker, I've been an attendee, I've been a chairman in the competition, a judge, an exhibitor, a co-host of the awards night. There's many hats that we've all worn. So we've come from a place of empathy, understanding everyone's resolve. So it's very much, how can we serve the community better? And are we going to please everybody? I'm sure not. Are we going to do our best to try? Absolutely. So already we're really excited about how many changes have been made that we've been directly a part of, and how receptive the organisation is to saying, well, let's listen. What can we do? So it's exciting.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you're a photographer, you're shooting between 2 and 10 weddings a year. It's a dream to go full time. Other than coming to WPPI, what are some suggestions for kind of growing your photography business and going full time?
Maybe I'll speak to the creative side, you do to the business side. As far as creatively, or at least the craft side, I think the biggest thing missing in this generation is exactly what, say, the likes of me did way back when, that is assisting a photographer, is carrying the bags of an experienced photographer, not even second shooting, just carry the bags and watch and learn and listen. I think the biggest asset that you can have as a photographer is your voice, is your confidence, is understanding what you need to do. I remember my ex-boss saying to me that a bad shot is better than no shot. So just get the damn shot, you know. So, but what I did was, it was wax on, wax off, right? I was carrying the bags of this photographer for a year and a half or so, just watching. How would you deal with an Italian wedding, a Greek wedding, a Jewish wedding, plus size bride, an odd height couple, no time, bad weather, all those kinds of things. It's just experience. Unfortunately, too many photographers these days they feel threatened by getting someone to assist them. But I would say that we've got to help each other. Otherwise, how are we going to work? Most photographers start these days by, hey, I've got some decent shots on Facebook, everyone likes it, I've got 300 likes, I must be good. A friend of mine's getting married, I do their wedding, I should quit my job, or I should start doing this full time. And that's no problem, most of us have started that way. My suggestion though is that when you become your own boss too quickly, you have no mentor, there's no one to look at, there's no one to understand you or to help you and guide you and things like that. So apart from trying to get someone to assist or create like a little network, go on Facebook, do a little bit of an ad and sort of say, hey, I would love to help you out. What can I do for you? How about everyone help each other out? I to this day wish I could have actually assisted more photographers in my early career. But I did it for 3.5 years, started my business, and I was fine, but that's what I would do. Certainly, I would look at spending some one-on-one time with someone that you respect and admire. For example, we do 5-day workshops. We have been doing them for over a decade now. We have about 800 people in our alumni, so spending 5 days with us on the creative and the business side of things literally has changed many people's lives with being able to get a good direction, digestible pretty quickly, but in a way that it not only gets you excited for those 5 days, but you can actually self-help beyond those 5 days. But get someone that you respect and admire, find out if they offer any kind of mentoring, any kind of workshops, physical workshops, because certainly there's digital that you can learn online up to a certain point. Certainly I have my own training site, and that's a great ongoing thing, but one-on-one I think is probably the best way to do it, in my opinion. Yeah.
And from the business perspective, like if someone's shooting 10 weddings because they can't get more work and they're trying to get more work but it's not coming in, then it's just a matter of, it is a hustle. You've got to get out there and hustle, and it's talking to everyone, every possible vendor that you can work with, wedding coordinators, talking to other photographers, just getting yourself out there, meeting people, say, hey, I'd love to work, I worked with you at this wedding. I worked at it with your wedding last week, and it was so wonderful to be able to work together. You were an incredible coordinator. You made my job so easily. I'd love to be able to work with you again. Giving them albums of like treating them like gold so that they want to refer you. And it's not just doing it to one person or just doing it one time, because you may not get anything from that person, or you may get one wedding. You've got to just spread yourself as far and wide as you possibly can. You might get one wedding here, one wedding there, but they will all add up. And so that you really have to hustle and get yourself out there, get your name out there, and keep booking clients, asking for referrals. You're shooting 10 weddings a year, you have the potential to get at least one referral from each of those clients, probably more. A lot of times when couples get married, they're at that age bracket where all of their friends are getting married. So ask for them for that referral. Hey, you are such an amazing couple to work with. I'd love to also work with other friends of yours who are just like you, and they'd be amazing, and do that, work that angle as well. But the problem is that if you're working a full-time job and you're shooting 10 weddings a year, your time is starting to get stretched really thin. And then if you're starting to do 20 weddings a year, the problem is and I went through this myself because I worked a full-time job. try to go down part-time. The problem is you're making good money from your full-time job, and it's really hard to say, when am I going to make that break and then start working full-time in my photography? It's not, and a lot of people will say, and probably one of the biggest mistakes is, I'll wait until my photography business is making as much as my full-time job, and then I'll quit. The problem is, it'll never get to that point because you're never able to spend as much time on your photography job as you are on your full-time job. So you've got to make that break and either quit your full-time job, go down to part-time if you can, and then with that extra time, now you're working to build up your photography business. And I hate to say it, but when you are supporting yourself, supporting a family potentially, and you do make that break, and now you're relying on your photography business, you become more desperate. You're like, I have no choice now. I need to get out there and find the business, find the work. And that is a great motivator to get you out of your shell, to start talking to people and start finding referrals. And that's a big thing. And then the other thing is time and management of an organization of your business, because that can be such a big time suck. If you are trying to do bookkeeping and you have your receipts everywhere and you're not filing your taxes on time and you end up getting penalized for that. So it's all about staying organized on that front. And if you're not good at that, and you just, no matter how much you want to try, you need to outsource that. Find a bookkeeper, find an accountant, find somebody who can come in once a week and just keep everything organized for you, and pay them $50 a week to do that. Whatever it is, it will make your life so much easier so you can focus on the business side of things.
One last thing to add on as far as vendors go and actually getting them images, which is something I think every photographer I know is so terrible at, that everyone knows it, like, I'm going to get, and then it just never happens because you get busy. Is my friend Brian in LA, he basically had a second shooter photograph all the catering that came out of the catering tent. And because of that, sent all that food photos to the caterer, and that's like his biggest source of referrals now. And it's a caterer. It's not somebody like at the top of the food chain that we'd expect.
Amazing.
Like,
yes.
We know to go after planners, and we know to go after venues, but just like
brilliant.
the people that like are forgotten.
Yes.
I mean, I used to even approach priests. and no one, to this day, no one does.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just wouldn't think it. And I'm like, well, way back when I was very hungry to get as many weddings as I possibly could, I would go to priests of a church that would be conducive of the kind of client that I would want. And I would say, Father, thank you so much for providing me a beautiful backdrop for my photography and creating a really good service for the bride and the groom. If you ever meet a couple that appreciate great photography and a great experience, can you refer me, please? I'd really appreciate it. And all of a sudden, like, why wouldn't they refer you? If they said, well, can you give me 5% of donation to the church? No problem. How would you like it? Cash or check? Yeah. And that priest could do 3-4 weddings in a day at a synagogue or a church or whatever it may be. They provide you 50 referrals and you book a third of them. There's your whole career.
Yeah.
When I was opening a portrait studio in conjunction with my wedding studio, and I needed portrait clients. I just didn't even know where to begin. And I actually had done a 5-day workshop from Jerry. And what I did was I went to this insurance company that was in town, and I found a manager of one department in the insurance company, and I offered him gift certificates to give over Christmas to all of the managers in his department, and he had something like 50 managers or something in his department. So I provided him with gift certificates that made it look like he purchased a gift certificate from our studio.
Taught us, cost nothing.
And it was a gift certificate. And it was a portrait session and a complimentary print, and then everything else on top of that had to be purchased separately. And out of those 50 gift certificates, I probably got 10 people that came, that contacted me. I think I had about 7 or 8 that actually showed up for their session. And so you think, oh, well, that's really disappointing. 7 or 8, people that showed up out of the 50 that you put out there. Those 7 or 8 just made me so much money. I'd say probably about 4 or 5 of those ended up being long-term clients that would book me twice a year for their family portraits, and that they were my clients for years after that. So that one idea that didn't cost me anything, any money to do, I then generated thousands of dollars over the next several years because I had these long-term clients that came to me who would have never found me otherwise. So, and that was a perfect way to build my business, because then I had them, they sent me referrals from their friends, and that's how I quickly built the portrait studio, which is so easy to do, but not always something that you think of right away.
See, we all want the immediate answer, because our mobile devices have just developed a muscle memory that we want things now. So when someone's starting a business in this, like a new generation of photographers are starting a business where they grew up with mobile phones, and that conditioning, it's, well, I want things now. So it's a very, I'm not saying it's a lazy way, it's a smart way. If you can get things now, why wouldn't you? But it's actually easier to stand out now, I believe, because where most photographers are waiting behind their computers for the work to come in, the smart ones are actually doing that as well as going out and hustling, is meeting with people and hearing the voice. And I mean, right now, if this was transcripted and we read it, as opposed to actually hearing our annotation, our expressions, our feelings, you get so much more feeling out of it. And that's the difference, is that the hustle is missing, and preparing for longevity rather than the quick fix. Everyone wants to be popular, everyone wants a quick fix. I want to be here for another 10, 20, 30, 40 years. That's our goal, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll leave it at that then. Thank you so much for having me in your house.
Thank you.
Making these delicious, or at least half delicious.
I know. Mostly delicious. Some of them are
Orange
delicious.
popsicle deliciousness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really appreciate it. I'm sure
Thank
that
you.
lots of listeners got lots of value.
Awesome.
You're welcome. Pleasure.
Cool.